Now, let us talk about the histology of the skin and the appendages. The skin is very fascinating because it's the largest organ of the body and it is about 16% of the body total body weight and is involved into a lot of functions. Right. Let's take a look at the functions of the skin. First function, protection. It provides biological, mechanical protection. Mechanical protection, biological, which means it is impermeable to water, right? And thermal, you have melanin, right, which prevents the absorption of ultraviolet radiation. The skin is also responsible for sensation. So you have sensory receptors for touch, temperature, pain, pressure, and thermoregulation. You have things like sweat glands and blood vessels, which are involved in arteriovenous shunts. We also have the metabolism of fat and synthesis of vitamin D and melanin right inside your skin. Let's take a look now. Right. So the skin is an epidermis, which is ectodermal in origin, is a dermis, which is mesenchymal in origin, not mesodermal. If you remember from embryology, we said that the dermis in the head and neck come from the neurocrest cells, which is the ectoderm. The dermis of the body wall is going to come from the lateral plate mesoderm. But the dermis of the back is going to come from what? Remember, from the paraxial mesoderm. Right. So we have the epidermis and the dermis. Right. These two layers, they are going to form a junction, right, which is going to be seen by epidermal pegs and dermal papillae. So you're going to see, for example, here, this is your epiderm and this is your dermis. So you're going to have invagination of the epiderm into the dermis, forming what's called epidermal ridges. And then invagination of the dermis into the epidermis, like here, forming what you call dermal papilla. This combination is quite visible in skin that is exposed to abrasion. For example, your thick skin of the sole and the palm of the feet. The sole of the feet and the palm of the hand. You're going to have these numerous ridges, right? And they are important in fingerprint reading, which is what we call dermatoglycophilics, right? That is the formation of fingerprints, biometric scans, and so forth. The skin is typically divided into two: thick skin, thin skin. The thick skin is hairless. It covers the sole and the palms. The thin skin has hair except the lips, the clitoris, the glans penis, the labia minora. Right. The thin skin is thicker at the extensor surfaces than the flexor surfaces. For example, check, for instance, the, the skin at the knee joint, right? You can actually see it is thick at the extensor and thinner at the flexor. Even at the elbow joint, it is thick at the extensor and thinner at the flexor. Right. So below the dermis, we have what we call a hypodermis or a subcutaneous tissue or superficial fascia. This it binds the skin to the deeper structure so that it can slide, right? And it is not involved in the it is not a true integumentary system. So when we talk of the integumentary system, we are talking of the epidermis and the dermis, not the hypodermis. Right. Now let's focus on the epidermis. So the epidermis is going to be lined by stratified squamous keratinized cells, which are named to be keratinocytes. Keratinocytes, what they do, they synthesize what you call intermediate filament, right, in form of cytokeratin, proteins, water repellent lipids, right? That's why we say it is very important because the skin, it provides the waterproof mechanism, right? So this epidermis is going to be typically arranged in 5 layers. So moving from the deep layer, going to the superficial layer, we are going to have what called the stratum germinativum or the stratum basale. The stratum germinativum is going to be columnar, it's going to be a single layer of columnar or cuboidal basophilic mitotic cells. These cells, they sit on the basal lamina by the hemidesmosomes, and then they attach to one another by what you call desmosomes. Why do we need desmosomes in the skin? Because the skin is actually exposed to a lot of abrasion and pressure. So therefore, it needs strong junctional complexes to actually bind the cells together. You understand? Good. So that's going to be your stratum germinativum. From the stratum germinativum, we are going to have your stratum spinosum. The stratum spinosum now, from the word spinosum, it is spikes. So what happens is this: the cells of the stratum germinativum, they are going to undergo mitosis, going superficially, and they are going to be loaded within this space. And as they are going superficially, they possess sort of like a polygonal or cuboidal structure. And these cells, they begin to secrete keratin filament and what you call tenofibules. So these tenofibules, they are together with the desmosomes, are going to join these cells together. So actually, when you see the stratum spinosum histologically, you can actually see some spikes surrounding the cell. So therefore, it was named stratum spinosum. Let's look at the stratum granulosum. The stratum granulosum, it is about 3 to 5 layers of flat cells, but these layers, they are actually basophilic. The stratum spinosum is acidophilic or eosinophilic, but the granulosum now becomes basophilic because it contains what you call keratohyalin granules and laminar bodies, right, that are very responsible for secreting lipids that will act as a waterproof mechanism of the skin. Right. Then from the stratum granulosum, we enter the stratum lucidum. Take note, NB. The stratum lucidum is a highly eosinophilic with a nucleo with cells that have absence of uh, well-developed organelles, right? And it is a highly eosinophilic. And NB, the stratum lucidum, is only present in the thick skin, not the thin skin. And then our last interesting layer becomes the stratum corneum. So the stratum corneum, which is also referred to as the horny structure, is going to have flat, dead cells filled with the keratin. No organelles, no nucleus, right? And this stratum corneum together with the stratum spinosum, they are the thickest layers in thick skin. Right, so this is what we are talking about here. So this shows the layer of your skin. I can actually see that from here to here, that's your epidermis, and then here, that's your dermis. As we say that there's going to be dermal, epidermal ridges and dermal papillae forming the fingerprints, right? And you're going to have this layer right here, a single layer of cuboidal to columnar cell that is highly basophilic and mitotic. That's your stratum germinativum, this layer. And then from the stratum germinativum, we're going to enter this slightly acidic layer that's your stratum spinosum. Stratum spinosum, right? And then this one again, that is basophilic due to keratino island bodies and lamina granules. That's going to be your stratum granulosum. It's going to have about 3 to 5 cell layers. And then this one, whenever you see stratum lucidum, you are going to say that this is your thick skin. Either this skin is going to be at the palms or at the soles. So it's going to have the stratum lucidum. And then above the stratum lucidum, we now have the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum is going to have dead keratinocytes. That is no nucleus, no organelles, only keratin is going to be found. Another good presentation of your skin right here. So I can actually say, okay, I also forgot to mention this one. Right, so you can actually have what we call cells, macrophages, will be found in the stratum spinosum, as well as you also going to have melanocytes. These are cells that produce melanin. That will be sitting on the basement membrane or the basal lamina, right, interspacing the stratum germinativum cells. Right. So if I to see, you can actually look here at this diagram, right? Okay, this right here is a Mason's opaxu, which is very sensitive to um, temperature and touch. Right. But let's take a look here with our layer. This layer right here, this layer, that's the stratum. And then from the stratum germinativum, we have this layer right here, that's your stratum spinosum. And this layer that is highly as basal, that's your stratum granulosum. You actually see some granules. The reason say granulosum because it has granules. These are keratohyalin granules. And you can see this the stratum lucidum and the stratum that is being covered. Right. So this one is actually shows this the spiny cell projection of the stratum spinosum. You can see these spikes that I was talking about surrounding this side. These spikes are, are due to the tonophibium and desmosomes that are joining these cells together. Right? This is another skin. You can actually see the stratum germinativum, spinosum, granulosum. There is no lucidium here. Stratum lucidium should be highly absent. It is thin skin. It is thin skin, definitely. This is another skin. You can actually see that this is thick skin. So you can actually, when you see, okay, let me start here. Stratum, the vetiver, spinosum, the basophilic granulosum, your lucidium is actually eosinophilic due to keratin, and this is the stratum. What are the other cells that are found in epidermis? Now let's take a look at other cells of epidermis. We have melanocytes. Melanocytes, they are derived from neural crystal cells, if you remember. Their function is to produce melanin, which is the brown skin pigment, very important to protect the skin from ultraviolet radiation. So these cells, they'll be sitting on the basal lamina together with the right inside your stratum basale, and they'll send processes, and each process of the melanocytes will cross or accommodate up to 40 keratinocytes. So within this process, you're going to have melanosomes that will be containing melanin, right? So the skin color is determined by carotene, blood, and melanin. So the quantity of melanin granules within keratinocytes results in color difference, not the number of melanocytes. So you can actually have someone with the same melanocytes, number of the same melanocytes, right? So skin color is determined by the melanin granules quantity, not the number of melanocytes. You understand? So melanin, it needs what you call the tyrosinase enzyme. So if someone is in a condition of albinism, you have failure of the activation of uh, tyrosinase enzyme. So therefore, there is going to be failure in melanin synthesis. You also have Langerhans cells that are dendritic, that have dendritic processes that act as antigen presenting cells. We have Merkel cells that are mechanoreceptors. Very important. Right, so you can actually see these melanocytes. They have these plasmic processes. These plasmic processes, they have melanin. You can actually see they have melanosomes, right? So it is this melanosome that is going to be uh, taken by the keratinocytes, right? Causing the skin to have its color. Now, let's look at the dermis. So the dermis is going to be divided into three. You have your papillary layer and your reticular layer. Right, so the dermis is the papillary layer, which consists of loose connective tissue, fibroblasts, mast cells, as well as macrophages, right? And it is type 3 um, collagen, type 3 collagen, as well as type 7 collagen. Remember, the basal lamina has type 4 collagen and type 3 collagen joined together by type 7 collagen, if you remember. Yes. So, but the papillary layer is going to have loose areola connective tissue, right? And then the reticular layer is going to have dense irregular connective tissue with thick bundles of collagen. So that will be collagen type 1 bundles. And these bundles and elastic fibers, they are going to be cemented by the dermatin sulfate. Take note of this. Elastic fibers are responsible for the elasticity of the skin. So we have abundant elastic fibers, especially in the reticular layer of the skin. Right, take note of this. The epidermis is avascular. So it depends on blood coming from the dermis. So the dermis is a highly vascularized, right? So the dermis contains blood vessels, sensory nerve for sensation, lymphatics, and skin appendages that we're going to talk about. That's your squid, your sebaceous, and your hair follicles, right? So as for the sensory receptors, we have three nerve endings. These they just sense temperature and pain. And then we have the Pacinian corpuscle. These are for the pressure and vibration. And as for the Masina corpuscle, they sense touch. So you have to get this in your mind. Right. First of all, when you are looking at the dermis, there is no clear demarcation between the papillary dermis and the reticular dermis. Um, they are just homologous. But the papillary dermis is a loose connective tissue you can actually see. So it's going to be less staining. It is mainly type 1, type 3 and type 1 collagen. Um, but as for the reticular dermis, you have a thick collagen fibers. So you can actually see it is a bit more eosinophilic, right? And it is type 1 collagen, remember. Right. So right in the dermis, you can actually see your sweat glands. I can actually see this is an eccrine sweat gland. So you can actually see this is a duct, this is another duct, this is another duct, this is another duct, and this is the sweat gland, the sweat gland, and the sweat gland, right? Um, this is a sweat gland. This is not a duct, but this is a duct, and this is an artery, right? You can actually see the tunica media, very prominent here, right? And this one, that's your Pacinian corpuscle. So it looks like it has concentric layers, right? The Pacinian corpuscle, sensitive to pressure. Remember. So this is the Meissner corpuscle, sensitive to touch, right? And you can find it right. This invaginating your epidermis, right? There's another layer of the dermis. Dermis irregular, dense connective tissue if it is the reticular, and then loose tissue if it is the dermal papilla. So you can actually see this is your hair follicle, your erector pili muscle is you're gonna see, and along with the hair follicle, you're gonna have your sebaceous gland and your sweaty glands right here. Right, this layer that is your hypodermis, your superficial fascia, mainly composed of adipose tissue. You can actually see these are the unilocular adipocytes that have a segment ring appearance. Now, let's take a look at skin appendages. So, embryologically, skin appendages, they are derived from the epidermis. So, there's going to be proliferation of the epidermis, and then it's going to invaginate the dermis, forming the hair, sweat gland, sebaceous gland, as well as the nail. So, the nails, these are just plates of keratinized epithelial cells at the distal pharynx, right? So, you're going to have a nail root and a nail plate, where and these will be lying on the nail bed. And it is very important to the transparency of the nail plate can actually be, uh, be used to diagnose the blood, the nature of the blood. So if you see the the nail bed uh, with a dark purplish appearance, that can actually mean that there is ischemia or hypoxia issues. Now, let's take a look at the hair, the hair follicle. So, together with the sweat glands, the sebaceous gland, um, the hair follicle is going to develop from the epidermis. Then it grows downward, getting into the dermis. You can check our embryology videos for skin development. So there are two types of hair. So we have villus hair and terminal hair. Villus hair, that's your fine, soft, short hair that have some tactile sensation. And then your terminal hair, that's your long, hard, coarse hair, right? So the follicle of the hair consists of a hair bulb, right? And this hair bulb, it is concave in the in the indentation, right, of dermal area that will be supplying blood vessels and nerves to the hair bulb. So that region is called the hair papilla. You understand? So you're going to have mitosis of highly keratinized cells forming the hair shaft. So there is going to form a hair shaft that is going to have a medulla, a cortex, and a cuticle, right? And the melanocytes can also send uh, processes that will cause pigmentation of the hair shaft. Is it? Right. So the remaining cells that will form the bulb now will become your internal root sheath, right? And then the cells which are equivalent to the stratum basalis and stratum spinosum will form the external root sheath, right? So this is your dermal papilla, which is going to have abundance of capillaries and nerves. This is your root sheath, your external root sheath formed by the stratum basalis and stratum spinosum cells, right? And remember, your hair follicle is always has this muscle, smooth muscle called your erector pili muscle, and this erector pili muscle will actually be important in temperature regulation. That when it is cold, it contracts, causing the root hair to be erect, right? And to capture air, that will act as an insulator, is it? So you can actually see this your dermal papilla, your internal hair root, and your external root sheath, right? And then the cross section, this becomes your medulla, your cortex of the hair shaft, and this white is going to be your cuticle, right? Surrounded by the outer epithelial cells. That's your external root sheath coming from the stratum spinosum and stratum basale. Good. Now let's take a look at sebaceous glands. So this is your sebaceous gland. It secretes by the mechanism of holocrine, right? Where the cell secretes its content by apoptosis. As it dies, that's where it secretes its content. That's holocrine secretion. The sebaceous gland, mainly, they are associated with the root hair follicle, right? So they'll be draining into the hair follicle, right? But in some cases, they drain directly to the surface, For example, in areas like the glans penis, the lips, the clitoris, they just drain directly into the epidermis, right? And take note of this. These sebaceous glands, they actually have a short duct that they will drain into. So they are acinar cells, right? And then they're going to have a short duct that they are going to drain into. So they secrete a substance called sebum, which is an oil, right? And they are mainly abundant in areas like forehead, your scalp, and they are absent in the soles and palms, right? So what else? What other thing is absent in the soles and palms? Hair follicles, right? Uh-huh. So you don't have hair follicles as well as you don't have sebaceous glands, is it? So a hair shaft or a hair follicle plus an muscle, erector pili muscle, and the sebaceous gland, they'll actually form what you call a pilosebaceous unit. So those combinations, they form a pilosebaceous unit. You can actually see this is sebaceous gland here, right? This is a cross section, right? Another sebaceous gland right here. All right. So now we get into sweat glands. Let's take a look at the sweat glands. Right. So sweat glands are divided into two. Right. So the merocrine and apocrine.